Good day everyone. Today I'm going to provide you an overview or introduction to Excel and what it's capable of. For those of you that have not used Excel before, you will find this very interesting and it will sort of whet your appetite for what to expect in terms of the value it offers. I will touch very briefly on certain functionalities, and in subsequent videos we will delve into the details of how these functions work and how to actually perform them. So what we'll do to get started, we've got a blank Excel workbook, default sheet. We will rename the sheet, simply double click on it and type in the name. So today, for our example, I've chosen sales quantities. So we'll give our sheet a header, company XYZ, sales quantities 2015. So firstly, we insert a column for item code and then the subsequent months of sales. We'll just do 5 months and we will have product code A, B, C, E. We can then populate the quantities information. For simplicity, I will just copy the same data. You highlight the data range. The keyboard shortcut key is Control C for copy. You highlight the paste range and the keyboard shortcut key is Control V. So we've captured our sales quantities for the various item codes. So what we do next is simply automate the addition, and we do that by utilizing the AutoSum functionality. So if I click AutoSum, automatically it provides me with the range being summed, B4 to B7. I'm happy with that. Alternatively, if there was a break in the data, an empty cell and continual information above it, you could simply pick up the right corner of the box and extend that range or reduce it accordingly. But B4 to B7 is adequate, it's fine. We press enter and we get a total. Now you could do that simultaneously for all columns by selecting all the cells where you want the totals to appear and selecting AutoSum. We'll type in total. We can also total by item code, a sum of all the periods. Same principle. Select all the cells and AutoSum. So if we want to format, make it a bit more interesting, draw more attention to it, more user-friendly, we can format the text. We go to the total lines, and we want to put in borders to indicate that it's a total. We want to draw attention to the total line, so we highlight the range, and under font setting, under the home tab, there is B for bold. Make your text bold. We select that and immediately you see the information is now bolded. Similarly, we can do it for the vertical total column. As well as the months, the headers as well. So our data set looks much neater and attention is being drawn to the relevant areas. So if you notice, I have specifically omitted item code D. So if you capture your information and you need to add rows within the information, it is very simple. You select the cell that will go immediately below the inserted cell. You go to the insert option on the home tab, drop that down and select insert sheet row, and we can then include item D with its relevant quantities, and also copy down the totals. Now you can confirm that the sum range is still correct by pressing Ctrl F2. So we can see, because the row we inserted was within the original summed range, the sum range has already been extended. But please be wary. Had we inserted it outside of the range, you would then have to go and amend the sum range to include the additional rows. If we look at cell formatting, we could do a cell fill. So if we conclude a specific quantity is too low for a particular month, for instance the 1, we could go to font and highlight a fill color for the cell, and we say red, indicating look at this information, look at the cell, this number is too low. Similarly, if we want to flag a particularly good number, you could go and highlight it green, but obviously you have to have a key to your color fills. Now this type of formatting and this type of logic that we are applying can be automated in Excel, and in subsequent videos we will go through the motions and the details of doing that. But simply, it is the area within the home tab called conditional formatting, and within conditional formatting there are numerous ways to set up rules that will actually insert the formatting for you automatically. So you determine the rule, and based on the outcome of that rule, you determine the formatting of that cell. So it will automatically insert these formattings, and you can then, by looking at the data set, fully understand your ups and downs, or positives and negatives. So if we move over to the data column, the data tab, we see again there's a whole host of functionality available, like so in all the other tabs. But again, as I've mentioned, I just want to sort of highlight your attention, or draw your attention to certain components that will immediately add value. And you can see that we've got a little section called remove duplicates. So in your data set, if you had a duplicate number, for instance, you had 2 B's, you obtained the data from a manual source, and in transcribing it or creating it, they duplicated it. You want to remove duplicates. So what we do quite simply, we highlight the data range, select under the Data tab, remove duplicates, and when we remove the duplicate, we want to remove all the information across all the rows. The dataset does have headers, so we select My Data Has Headers and we click OK. And immediately you can see 1 duplicate value found and removed, 4 unique values remain. This is quite simple with a small data set, but imagine the value that it can add if you're looking at hundreds of thousands of lines of information and automatically have the duplicates removed. This comes in particularly handy when you're dealing with master type data like inventory, general ledger, those type of items. Moving on, there are certain elements that can flow from these tables that add considerable value to your information. And they can be created very, very simply within Excel. So one of them, if you go to the Insert tab, there's 2 areas that I use very, very often. The first is Pivot Table and the second is Charts. So you could take a data set, drop it into a pivot table, and believe you me, the power of a pivot table is unrivaled. When you take a data set of hundreds of thousands of lines and have the ability to filter and sort and distill it into exactly what you're looking for, you will be amazed. But simply select Insert, Pivot Table, and it automatically selects the range for you because it is the only data set on the sheet. If not, you will have to manually select the range. And please bear in mind, in your header columns across the rows, there must not be any blank header columns. That will give you an error message. You have 2 options. You can either insert it into a new sheet or alternatively insert it into the existing worksheet, meaning this particular worksheet. So if we say OK, it creates a new worksheet. All the columns from our tables are in the pivot, and very simply you can have an item code, selecting only the total, but more on the value of pivot tables further on. This is just to show you from your table how simple and easy it is to hop over into a pivot table. Again, if we go to Insert, we select the table, and we can create a chart for the data set that we are viewing. We can select any type of format chart that we want, a bar graph, a pie graph. We will select a bar graph. Within that bar graph, there's 3D, 2D, 2D column, so you are actually spoiled for choice in terms of the chart that you want to insert. If you hold the mouse over the type of chart, it will give you a preview of what you're going to see, and you simply click the chart that you're looking for. You can also switch between your different axes. So there's your chart. For the single data set that you created, you're able to put in totals, put in formatting that adds value, create the chart, as well as create the pivot table. I hope you enjoyed this video. As mentioned, it's just the basics and introduction to Excel, but believe you me, it is just scratching the surface. Until next time, goodbye.